you're crazy, you're crazy. Let's put you together. And, you should have babies, 10 babies in like 12, 13 years. From the beginning, all I remember is chaos. Like I would open the door, and I still have that, same in Montreal. And you had to like take a breath, like, so they joined what they thought was like the true Judaism. He said that, we're not a cult, it's a sect. She went to college. I came home and I'm like, my teacher went to college. I didn't even know what college was. So, but I knew it was bad. But I understood that there's a right and a wrong. No, there's a secular version of misogyny and sexism. I used to say measure your freedom in hemlines because I had to like cover the knee and the elbow. I would be like, oh, they have to do till here and here. And then we saw Muslim girls in Manhattan. I'm like, oh, these were not Muslim. I knew you had it the worst. Dear future Goldie, I do not believe this.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Yasmine Mohammed podcast. Today, we have a friend of mine. Her name is Goldie Hoffman. Goldie grew up as one of 10 kids in a Hasidic family in Brooklyn, New York. She endured strict gender roles, dress codes, and food laws, and her education was also limited because she's a girl. From an early age, she was already acutely aware of and hated her restrictive second-class status. She knew what sexism was before she knew the word. While obtaining a degree in history and Middle East studies, Goldie learned that anything countering the current neo-progressive viewpoint was not accepted, denigrated as Orientalist, and therefore racist and uneducated. She has experienced life within different societies and cultures, which can make her feel like everywhere is home and yet nowhere is home at the same time. So for those of you who are regular listeners of this podcast, you can easily see why I love this woman and why I relate to her so much and why as soon as we met, I was like, oh yes, you are my people. Welcome, Golda. Thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me and for having me. I'm excited to be here and also a little nervous, but that's to be expected because I don't actually talk so much about this background. Similar to how you open your book, you said, I should be over this. And I immediately connected to that. I'm like, this is behind.
And that's us not being kind to ourselves, because the truth is, when did we even give ourselves a chance to process it and get over it? We were just like, move on, let's go, get on with it. Like we come from these cultures.
Time is, you're not getting any younger.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no time for like, let's process this and talk about it and, get over our traumas. It's just like, nope, survival, keep going. So yeah, I'm going to take you back, way back.
Yeah.
No, I mean.
It's just you learn to live with it. It just, each layer of the onion kind of thing. And then it's like, oh, another onion. Oh, another layer that makes me weird. Oh God, now here's another one.
And every time you think like, whew, the onion's finished. It's like, bitch.
No.
Here's another layer. And you're like, oh my God, will it ever end? But so we're going to take you way, way back to the very beginning of little baby Golda getting born in Brooklyn, New York, in a Hasidic community where eventually you will be one of 10 children because you're the oldest or one of the oldest.
Third eldest, second eldest girl, which as you know, and you're basically the eldest girl, like you're a mini mommy. Like I changed diapers at 6. So
yeah. Okay, well that's it. Tell us all about that. So some of us are familiar with we've read the book Unorthodox, or we've watched the reality show My Unorthodox Life. There's also the documentary called One of Us. These are all, maybe depicting some parts of what it was like for you to grow up, and maybe other parts were not exactly the way it was for you. So we want to hear about your specific community and your specific experience growing up in New York. Tell us all about it.
Well, the first thing to say is, there's so many different sects and groups. So people will come up to me. I actually know some of the people in One of Us, but they weren't in my group. I ended up doing something with them with theater for ex-religious people. But ours was called, you've heard that, Chabad or Lubavitch.
Hmm.
And the other groups, they were even like more extreme. We were considered like the most liberal of the Hasids. And in fact, when I befriended some of these ex-religious people, and one of them said, we didn't even consider you Hasidic. And then we all got into it. And like, we were the original. Suddenly we were all
Yeah.
reverting. I'm like, because the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidim, said to spread it. And you don't spread. And then and the theater director's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like we suddenly were like, I'm like, our group is right. Yours, because they don't do missionary work. Hasidic, the only Chabad, now there's some others, Chabad and so it's an acronym, Chabad, but you sometimes they're called Lubavitch internally. And they will, what I say, missionary work is elite is not allowed in Judaism, but among Jews. So they basically got to my parents. They were secular Jews, very similar, like again, similar to your story. Like my mother was not raised that way. She joined it. My father too. He was from San Diego. She was from Montreal, which is why we later go back there. Another connection. But anyway, she joined it. This was their like act of rebellion. And this is what always scares me about people. Are we doomed to keep ping ponging? The secularists are like, that's it. Life like this, it's so superficial. It's this. I know what I'm gonna, search. We're always searching. And and then it ping pong. So they did it. It didn't work out. They had 10 kids. They joined, they were married together, matched up, but like had a say in it. And they're like, you're crazy, you're crazy. Let's put you together. And you should have, then she just start babies, 10 babies in like 12, 13 years. Boom, boom, boom. And yeah, 5 girls, 5 boys. There's no twins. And I mean, shockingly, it's not great for a marriage. So I know that will surprise you. So it all like broke down. And anyway, they divorced. My mother takes most of the kids to Montreal. Then there's a new setup. My father still like thinks sort of Hasidic, doing his own thing. But anyway, so from the beginning, all I remember is chaos. Like I would open the door, and I still have that same in Montreal. And you had to like take a breath, like you're coming home, and you just see like chasing someone with a broomstick. Someone is screaming, and it's just chaos. And if you ask like my mother now she's like, you just get swept up into it. She joined it. She said, for me back then, five, that's how she talked. Five was a big family. And I did want more siblings. She had one brother. But I said, she goes, but it sounds strange, but I thought my body would know its limits and stop. I said, yeah, but you saw it wasn't stopping. There were 6, 7, 8. She literally said, like, your father and I lost our minds. What can I tell you? So they joined what they thought was like the true Judaism. That's how they felt it. And if anyone talked to them, they would not listen. Like my mother said, she would say they're jealous because, they can't find the guts to join it and go do this. And so we were in Crown Heights. That's like the leader, the head, the Mecca, if you will, of that branch, with the grand rabbi, the Rebbe, and he was considered like I mean, now people think he might have been the Messiah, and there ends up being a split, but he was considered like a tzaddik, a pure, like almost like the way that Islam views Mohammed, like pure, most perfect human being, tzaddik. Like I know that in Arabic there's
Yeah.
tzaddik, but it means like the most righteous, the most justice, and that he had like special powers. I mean, we basically thought he could. So it starts to bleed. Judaism's not supposed to have these intermediaries, but humans are humans, and they start to act that way. So anything he said, we would have to like wake up in the middle of the night. He would give these sermons, these sichas, which means conversation, but it isn't. And they were in Yiddish, and we used to get like points if we could dictate and write down. I didn't even understand much of it, but I was learning Yiddish at school because my family again didn't come from it. So like now I know some Yiddish, but like I had to learn it. And anyway, we would dictate, and we would get like the teachers would be like, "Zero, good, very good." If you would come in and like how much you got of it. And then like the hardcore families who went to the 2 a.m. Sikha, because you started getting a little really out there towards the end, as they do as cult leaders. I know they won't like that. I spoke to one rabbi and he said, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but he said that, we're not a cult, it's a sect. Like that. That's much better. And all I know is my mother at one point had to go to NYPD. My father got abusive. She said they listed them as a cult. So I'm just saying that if anyone was, I don't know if they still are, but they were listed under.
I've heard this before. We've had people before that have been part of similar type cults like this have been on my podcast. And there was also a documentary that I watched about the son of one of these leaders. I can't remember the name of it. But his father was that
they're like gods.
Sadiq that you were, yes, exactly. And he was never questioned. And the stories that I was hearing from another woman who joined a similar cult to this one in Jerusalem, she said the same thing about the 2 a.m., 3 a.m. lessons where they would all sit around and they all had to listen to this guy go on and on and on. And in fact, he would do that before meals too. So they'd be working all day and then they come home and it's like it's time to eat and everybody's sitting around the table, but first he's going to have his sermon. So everybody's starving, and she was explaining that it was kind of a way of controlling everybody, letting them know that, you're going to have even your hunger is going to have to wait. Like your most basic bodily needs are going to have to wait until he deems it appropriate for you to begin eating or go to sleep or whatever it is.
And we're not the most concise of people. Let's just be honest. So you can imagine this will be a short one. There's nothing short in Judaism or Jewish families, But
so what was it? You described a little bit about what it was like for you going to school. Now, how we've all seen Yentl, or at least heard of Yentl, and how she wasn't allowed to study parts of the Torah because she's a girl. And I've heard that also in some of these schools in the more Hasidic communities, girls are only allowed an education up to a certain amount. I think boys are too. They're only allowed to be educated up to a certain grade. And then after that, it's just Torah, like you just do religious studying, no more anything academic. What was your schooling like?
Yeah, so I went to a school called, and in general in Chabad, you'll see this in any city that they're at. There'll be a Beis Rivka, so house of beit, bais. It's just the Yiddish way of saying beit in Hebrew, and I'm just saying to her because I know some Arabic, and it's similar. So house of Rivka, one of the founding mothers, and Beis Yaakov. That's how you know that's a Chabad girls' school. And the way it is that English studies, it's called English, but secular studies, anything, math, reading, is tameh. It's impure. So half the day, but we're going to give it to the girls because they're less holy. Half the day will be the Chabad Judaism, and I specify that because it's a very different Judaism, and the prayers. And then, well, reluctantly, because we have to, and we are in America, do the English studies. The boys' school, and there's a lot of lawsuits, did not even have that. And the government turns a blind eye, at least in our group. And then the ones that do, they're like, because the attitude is, they'll pick it up. Their sisters will teach them how to read, which did, or they'll get a tutor. But in an interesting way, they prize the boys and the men, but they're the most crippled at the end. But it keeps you in. So they don't, because you can't, they just think, you can catch up. And you will see some ex-Hasidic, they make good, generally lawyers because of the Talmudic study, that's Judaic law. Maybe medicine, you won't see that, or engineering and stuff, because they don't have the math. We know this neighbor who left in Montreal, same group, and he wanted to just do a year trade school. And they're like, you don't know fractions. Like the teacher said, he didn't have anything. That's Montreal. Similar. New York was even worse because that was the headquarters. So they vote in blocks. There's a lot of deals made with the politicians, and then sometimes some of the really hardcore groups that are in the middle of nowhere, they will have some of the kids, the boys, do the testing, the standardized testing, and submit it for the school. So they'll find two kids. Oh, good, you know English,
right?
You can, and they call it English, but it's any of it. So the boys don't, at least where we were in Crown Heights, the boys' school, the good one, didn't have secular studies. And they call it English, but it's secular. And that was the good one. Then there was another school that had half, but it wasn't even good. In my school, we had retired teachers. They paid them nothing, or we had teenagers who were like, basically right before they got pregnant or they were married off, they would leave. I remember one of the teachers in grade 3, Mrs. Cunyon, and she was, anyway, so they were like, she went to college. I came home and I'm like, my teacher went to college. I didn't even know what college was. So, but I knew it was bad. You don't go to college. And so I said that to my mother, not knowing she's considered a Baal Tshuva. She became religious. She's like, yeah, so I went to college. I'm like, you did? It may as well have been like in prison. Well, fast forward, Goldie's going to go to college later. But, and I find out why they don't want to. But another thing we had all my life, and it's still like trauma a bit, is they had this saying for girls, and it's still used. She's not yoitza. My brother would shout it. She's not yoitza. She's not yoitza. It means, I thought it meant, in Hebrew, it means it is, she's not commanded. Yotze, litzavot, to command. But that's not how it's used. Ask any Chabad kid or Hasidic kid. It's like the minyan. Let's say you're going to do a prayer for my dead relative, my mother, let's say. She's still alive. Sorry, Mom. But for her funeral, according to them, they have to do a certain prayer called Kaddish at the end. And you need 10 men, 10 boys over 13. That's with the bar mitzvah. They're considered a man. I wouldn't even count. You would get a stranger off the street who is Jewish, who said, I don't even know Hebrew. Well, we'll write it out for you over me. And so I remember once with Hanukkah, and it was constantly told this, like, she's not yotza, things that I would want to do. And yeah, you're not supposed to study Talmud. But she's not yotza. So even Hanukkah was a fun holiday for me because it was the candles, maybe I have a bit of pyromania, I don't know. But it was the colored candles, and it was near my birthday. And I know why I like Hanukkah. There was not a lot of rules to it. It was a later holiday add to it. And nothing was considered muksa. You can't do anything on like Shabbat and Shabbos, we say in Yiddish, or like most of the holidays. Like, you can't turn on a light switch. You can't, there's a whole list that is taken from what was deemed work in the days of the temple. And then because we're Jewish, we're like, well, technically this is also work. And if you like this, we make a rule on top of the rule on top of the rule. You can go on endlessly, which they did. So we can't tear toilet paper. And I think that was shown in some of the series. But anyway, Hanukkah didn't have that. So that's another reason it was fun. And we get to light candles. And we would make menorahs in school and come home. And one night we were all lit our own menorahs and did the songs. And there's a blessing. And I liked the tune of it. And my brother started screaming, my older brother, she's not yaitse. She's not yaitse. And my father said, so let her do it. And I remember thinking, I didn't know that. It's like 8. This too, I'm not yaitse for. And he was jealous because the girls have to do Shabbos candles every week. And he didn't get to do that as like the one thing. But I mean, where I live, they still have it. I don't know if you've been to Crown Heights. If I hear a siren, like, we had like a little shtetl. So we had the siren. When Shabbos was coming, it tells you have 15, there's a shorter one, and you'll start to see men and women running home, because if they're carrying, you're not allowed to carry. If there's not a neighbor, there's all these rules. Unbeknownst to you, you're living parallel lives. And if you've ever seen them, actually, if it's raining and they're wearing like a hat, plastic on their
They can't hold an umbrella.
Hats, you can't hold if you don't have what's called an Arab, something, and there's a whole debate about installing an Arab, just like a wire around, because you're not in a walled city. It all comes back to Jerusalem and Israel, but anyway, so this is how the alarm goes, and it means the girls have to light the candles. It's Shabbos for us. They have 18 minutes left. Everything's 18. So they're running, and then it's muksa. Whatever you didn't do and you forgot, it's done. And so these sirens, and one's long, and then for every holiday. And I'm like, how did they? No wonder they fucking hated us.
Sure.
like where just another reason. I'm like, I can't believe now that I'm second. Like, how did they even get that passed and allowed? There are other
Mhm.
people in, in Crown Heights at the time. It was just
Yeah.
like, it's insane. And we had our holidays, our parades on the streets, Lag BaOmer, rides. So you're living a parallel universe in New York, which is crazy. But you just reminded me one of the first lessons we learned when the Rebbe came from Europe, his father, the Friedrich Rebbe. You have to learn all the dynasties. Um, and we had to learn the quote, America, this is what he said, is nicht anders. America is not different. Meaning, we may be in America now, but we are going to live like the shtetl. We will live according to Judaic. We won't be influenced by the goyim around us. Because I always joke, like not joke, but if you're going to start a cult or a sect, maybe not New York City, with all the influences. I gotta give them, credit. They're like, we're doing it. I'm like, really? Like, and at no point was that like, not the city. It wasn't, Crown Heights wasn't a good neighborhood back then. It was rough. And now it's becoming like Williamsburg became gentrified and all of that. But there are Hasidic groups that do go off to the country. And like, if you're gonna create a commune, like do it. But it was New York, so America's nicht anders. And I often think about that and I'm like, but it is. It is different. You're here. But no, when we keep the tradition alive and keep the tradition alive, and that's a lot of secular Jews support them because they believe, well, they keep Judaism going, and so they live off of basically charity. We're mostly poverty. I was shocked to find out that as a Hasidic person, they're like, oh, you all have money, diamonds, right? I'm like, oh, my parents didn't get the memo, like we don't even have one rich relative. But there's a few wealthy families, but it's all funding. Like you'll see them fundraising among secular Jews. And I often joked even with religious Jews, I'm like, you need the secular because without the secular Jews, without my mother's parents and stuff, there would be no one funding it. So, and I've talked with others why they give to Chabad and don't necessarily join, which is what my mother said she should have done. She realized she should have been a friend of Chabad, not join them. Is that they keep Judaism going. So it's a big thing on Jewish people's minds right now, and I'm sure even in the diaspora, of assimilation rates and things. And so their idea is, yes, this is an extreme form, and maybe people suffer under it, but it keeps it going. And then I guess they think, listen, there's 10 kids. They have big families now. If half of them defect, we still win.
Yeah.
Like,
Nobody else
so
can do that. Like regular
yeah,
folks living in the city can't do that. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
I have a question. You talked about voting blocks and you talked about the alarms and all that stuff, because I think a lot of that has to do with they do have voting power because everybody's going to vote according to the way that their leaders tell them to vote, and the leader is going to tell them to vote according to the politician that's willing to do the things that they need him to approve. So I need to understand what is happening in New York and how this mayor got elected. Do you have any insight into that?
when my family divorced, so I started high school more normal in Montreal. So I like to say nothing normal about our life in Montreal, but so I still follow because I'm in LA now in California, but I am flabbergasted
Hmm.
by this grifter. He's a grifter just in general. There's videos. He's made up a whole backstory. And
Yep.
I think that's part of it is that we're in a culture of grifters. We say we don't like them, but we keep propping them up.
Elevating
We
them.
keep
Yeah.
falling for it. And whether it's in the entertainment world or in politics, we're
Hmm.
loving this backstory. And sometimes I'm even hesitant with, the ex-Hasidic story. And I joke that I don't even get the cool leaving the cult story because my mother left it. I still do, but we love these like identity politics, in the oppression Olympics, give me the gold.
And so
It's
they
all the
make it
rage.
up. He makes it up
So they make
entirely.
it up. Look at Hilaria
Yeah.
Baldwin, um,
Yes.
that George Santos, whether we're talking about way more than padding a resume or fudging a date. They make up backstory saying they grew up somewhere and suffered something they didn't. And some
No,
people
both his
go,
parents were like Ivy League graduates or something. Like he lived at a level most people can't even
but
comprehend
he
his whole
says, and
life.
I
And
quote,
now
like
he's acting like a little,
growing up in the
I'm a
third
little,
world,
yes, I'm a little brown
and
minority.
people will out it. And there's even a
Hmm.
newer video of him doing different accents. He's actually a good actor. I'm
Hmm.
like, you know what? It's someone who went into acting. But they don't care. When you even show them this person has been lying to you, they'll either do two things to save face. They'll say, so what's the big deal? Everyone lies. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, they don't. Not about who they are. And why is that so upsetting? And people didn't understand even with Hilaria Baldwin or with this kind of stuff or Hassan Minhaj. And I know a lot of this stuff because
Hmm.
I'm in comedy and acting, although temporarily on hiatus because of what I talk about. But they don't understand. I've seen that. So what does it bother you, Goldie? I'm like, because I went through it. And I'm sure
Hmm.
it affected me. And there's a trauma to it. And it affects how I deal with life and how I fit in or never will fit in to any group, how I see through things. And this person's taking it to profit. Another thing is I sort of like similar to Douglas Murray, like I just don't like being lied to. Like
Hmm.
on a big, like we're talking about when they're lying to you like that, you know what they're saying? They're saying,
You're an
my
idiot.
eyes is fucking moron. I don't give a shit.
Hmm.
I dare you to call me out on my lie. You're still going to
Hmm.
celebrate me. You're still going to, and you know what's worse? And then you see them be right.
It
And,
works. Yeah.
and it just, maybe it's the religious past of me. And I wonder if this is about you. And it was something I was going to ask you, even though you're asking me the questions. Someone in Israel, I know I jumped to tangents, it's very,
No, this is all
someone in
good.
Israel, a soldier I was talking to, a reservist, said to me, we're talking about the Middle East. Just this last summer, I was there. And he's like, I was like, why is this not like this? And why does the government? He goes, can I ask you something? You were religious? You come from a religious family? And I said, yeah, but I don't believe anymore. I'm like an atheist, agnostic. Like, I mean, it's still I know my history. And he goes, no. But you said you grew up in a religious family, and I said yes. He goes, but you know that because you understand right and wrong. Even though I was going to tell you that, like, we understand this sense of justice. Like, it's that
Yeah.
child that said, but that's not fair.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's still so in
The
me. And I
injustice drives me
knew
crazy. Yeah.
instantly, I knew they
Yeah.
were wrong. See, that's the funny part. The programming didn't work. If I saw a
Hmm.
sexist thing, I'm like, oh, that can't be God. That can't be Hashem.
Hmm.
Because Hashem would be perfect when I was a believer. Like, so they have to be wrong. Something in me knew that, but I understood that there's a right and a wrong.
Hmm.
And it does matter. And I can't,
Hmm.
there's a stubbornness to that. And I
Hmm.
never, he saw something that I was like, maybe he's right. I
But
didn't
that's not a
realize.
bad thing. You know what
Right.
I mean? That's maybe if we could say anything was taken that was good from our religious upbringings, that's not something I want to lose. I don't
We
want to
see
be like
through the
these people that
bullshit.
are like, well, the ends justify the means, or it doesn't really matter because he's on our side in the end and he's saying what we want him to say, or whatever justifications they tell themselves. I cannot. If
It
a
drives
person
us nuts.
lacks integrity, yeah, no, I'm the same as you.
I'm like, just
Even
be
if it's
honest
somebody
about how
who
you
could
grew up.
benefit me, yeah, no, I'm not. Absolutely not. Stay away from me. Like I'm
Yeah. And if
horrified
they're
and
lying
disgusted.
about that, then what?
Yeah,
But it is such a disrespect to your audience because it is saying, I think I'm
totally.
smarter than you. And I
100%.
don't give a shit.
Yep.
You're below me. So I don't, it's
Yep.
a narcissistic thing. It's like, psh, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I-
Which brings
It's this high,
my
holier
my
than thou thing
rage
that I
up
can't
even more.
stand.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, how dare you? Yeah. There's so much to unpack here, Goldie. I know we've just basically just skimmed the surface of your upbringing, and I know there's still so much. Like we could probably spend this whole episode just talking about your upbringing. It's really interesting. But I want to kind of, move on just a little bit before we have to open it up to the audience. You've talked a little bit about the similarities between my book and your experience and some things that you found that you related to. And obviously, I relate to your story in so many ways as well. Um, can you tell me about like when your mom moved to Montreal, all of you moved to Montreal? You're about 12 years old, am I correct?
Yeah, something like that. And there was like a
Yeah.
period of where you're integrating. Anyway, I'll let you finish the question though.
Yeah, well, that's exactly my question.
Oh,
So
okay.
tell me about that journey, that period of integration, because here you are going from like second class citizen, totally your food is restricted, your education's restricted, strict gender roles, like you're like living in little boxes. You're like you said, you're living parallel world to the society around you, and then suddenly, boom, you're in a world where there's no more sirens, there's no more 2 o'clock sermons. Like how was that for you?
Well, I was excited. So there was something, maybe knowing that my parents weren't born into it, I was like angry about it. Because from
Yeah.
a young age, similar to you, and you say it in your book, like you didn't understand why your sister was okay with it. And it's just something in you, and we can't explain it, that it's just the
Yeah.
programming, as I was telling you, like just didn't click with us. I was
Yeah.
like, I hate this. And I wanted to be a boy for the longest time. And it took me a while to realize it's just the sexism and the misogyny and being, valued differently. And by the way, I forgot to say that the reason we learned how to read and write, the girls get the secular, because someone's got to read the ingredients for kosher rules and manage
Right.
the books on top of making the babies. Because he's going to be,
Mm.
davening, praying, and doing that stuff, and maybe a job, but like
And
someone's
I
going to
think you
do
know
the
what it
food
is
shopping.
too, and correct me if
Yeah,
I'm
no,
wrong,
go
but this
ahead.
I see it like this too. I see it like the boys are more dangerous. It's like a girl, they can control her, make her get married early, make her have a lot of kids. You know what I mean? If she learns how to read, it's not quite so dangerous. But a boy could
True.
just leave and get a job and work outside of the community and make his money out there and then marry a non-Jewish woman and da 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 da. But if he is hobbled by not even having a basic education, then that keeps him grounded into the community in
Yes.
the same way the girls are grounded into the community by marrying them off early and making them have lots of kids to weigh them down.
Yes. And I didn't mention my mother was 19 when she had her first kid. So they got her young. Like
Hmm.
from Montreal, she was invited to a Shabbat, classic cult things. They were so friendly. Yeah, of course, mom.
Hmm.
Like so, and there's also a different presentation of how that movement, Chabad. A lot of people are like, oh, I love Chabad. Let's say there's Jews in your audience now. It's a different Chabad of the outreach and the Chabad houses on campus, which is a nice respite from everything going on, especially now, and then the one you join. But you only will see that once it's too late. Once you're like, you're
Hmm.
in. All of those, when you're having those fun dinners and drinking, you can't be sitting with the men and you're not having mashka, you're not having alcohol. Like it's a completely, and they're allowed. I don't want to say it's like takia, but there's an aspect of presenting it where they have more
Saving
leeway.
face.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and you can be a little relaxed to get the secular Jews to join it. But then once they
Hmm.
join, like it was hardcore, especially New York. But anyway, you were saying, sorry, I went on a tangent, but in
Yeah.
Montreal,
No, this
yes.
was good. Good
So
tangent. I
I
needed to
I
hear that.
wanted, yeah. So similar to you, you see all around you freedom and like girls like doing things, but I romanticized it, and that there comes a letdown when we became
Yeah.
secular. I thought
Yeah.
like it was utopia, like what little I've read, because I could read and would
Yeah.
read secular books, which some people were not allowed. We had no radio or TV wasn't allowed. Goyisha, like anything Goyisha means non-Jewish. And anyway, so I would read, and I thought like, oh, everything's equal. Like the women's movement, it was like your utopian dream of what a women's activist would want. I thought like the secularists have achieved that. And then
Yeah.
you have to learn, especially as you're becoming an adolescent. This is my entry into that. No, there's a secular version of misogyny and
It's
sexism,
all there.
and there's that letdown. Still better, way better.
Hmm.
Like same
Hmm.
thing. I used to say we measure your freedom in hemlines. Like I would look to the
Hmm.
Satmar, and because I had to like cover the knee and the elbow. I would be like, oh, they have to do till here and
Hmm.
here, and then we saw Muslim girls in Manhattan. I'm like, oh, at least we're not Muslim. I knew you had it
Hmm.
the worst. Like
Hmm.
it's just we knew. I don't even know. They didn't
Hmm.
teach us much about it, but I was like, oh my God, because even the women in Hasidim, it's once you're married, there's the wigs and the hair cover.
Yeah.
But I was like, my God, them it's not even before. It's like at puberty. Um,
Hmm.
And so
Even before
anyway,
then.
there's that whole letdown. But also, my mother was from Montreal, and Montreal, just our luck, the worst luck in her family. So you're leaving this movement with 10 kids who speak English, but it's a Yiddishy English. Like I would say like, hello, they started up with us the Shabbos, like, and it's full of Yiddishisms. And anytime I would say something, I would be like, I can't cut this. I can't catch this. I remember that specifically because people said, what did you just say? And so I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, noted. That's Yiddish. Like, and like, just, you don't know
Oh,
any TV that they've known, references. You're making mistakes. I talk to ex-Hasidic now, and they're like, oh, I went away for that year to make all my mistakes. Like, like working as a server, she said, arugula, one friend, it's arugula. And just like it could be the smallest, like innocuous thing
yeah,
that will throw you off.
I
To this
know.
day, it shocks me because it was just my elementary school. So I always like to say,
Hmm.
I assimilate, I'm at least more normal, just your formative years. How could that have screwed me up?
Yeah.
Just your childhood, the
Mhm.
Jungian psychologists among you be like, what? But we're in French Canada. So not only did my
Mm.
English screw up, now we're in a
Right.
movement where they're also just lost like their referendum. They're angry at anyone speaking English. So now I'm in a new movement. I'm an outsider of an outsider of an outsider. So I'm going to a Jewish secular school, so Judaic, but one of those top like good school, but I'm one of the poor kids on financial aid. So most of my classmates in that high school were upper middle class. Well, they say upper middle class. I would just say everyone was rich to me, lower, no one wants to be called upper class. I'm like, what if you're lower upper class? But you're going to school, and on the one hand, you're getting very good education, but I'm busing, metroing, busing, and walking again. And there is a division. Like it was hard. So you're new already, and you're the weird kid. And it was and there's French all around. So I'm weird for Jews because I have these 9 siblings and these weird Hasidic names. I got lucky with Goldie, but we'll talk about that after. But and I'm weird with Jews. Plus, the Jews in Montreal are already a minority, as an ethnic minority, and they're in the Anglo world. And and I have to learn French now. And if I just go into a store, if you've ever been to Quebec, and especially when they just lost their separatist referendum, and I look ostensibly white skinned, so I pass as white. So they would assume that maybe English speakers are minority looking. Like, and I'm not wearing the Hasidic garb anymore, more, or I don't have the dark skin. So they would speak to me in French. And now I just look quote unquote retarded. I'm like, and and I would just like buy things. And for someone who talks so much, I like, please don't talk to me. Please don't talk. Like I would sit on the bus, and they were so mean. The bus drivers, everything. Je parle en français. Like
Hmm.
now je parle français, but c'était jamais assez for them. It was never enough for them. But now I'm proud. Like they really hammered it in, and it made me like love languages. But it was so hard in the beginning because I'm adjusting. I'm new. I don't know anyone. I'm trying to learn secular world. Plus, we're in this freezing tundra.
Yeah. Oh
Like
my God.
the 8 months of, and I will get into arguments with Montreal. I play devil's advocate. I'm dual. They're like, it's not 8 months of winter. Like, it is 8 months of
It's
cold
8 months of,
where you need a
yeah.
jacket. I am sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe Vancouver
It's
could get away
because
with
they
it.
don't even consider a freezing cold day. They're like, oh no, it's nice out. Like
Oh, yeah,
they've
they're wearing
lost
shorts.
all
Snow's
ability to
melting.
be able to tell. Yeah.
And so I'm in there. I'm learning 2 languages at once. Plus, our school wasn't Yiddish, it was Hebrew. So I'm learning 3 at once.
Oh my gosh.
And it was overwhelming. And you're also the new kid, and you're weird. And you live in Cote-Neige, not where they in the suburbs that they live.
Mhm.
And just my mother's luck. So my great uncle had a place, and my grandfather really took over as the father role and really supported us. So my mother comes with all like, first it was split, but then we were 10 kids. There was a brief period in Miami we won't get into. Um, and so we're all 10 kids in this lower duplex that he had held on because my grandfather saw their marriage was ending. He's like, we're going to hang on to that. I think Connie, that's his daughter, might need it. And so we move in to that duplex. It's crowded. We have bunk beds, like The whole thing is chaos. There's a lady upstairs who refuses to move out, who's pounding like sawdust because we're too loud. But then she starts crying. She doesn't want to move out. So just, city chaos. It's kind of the stories of like the first generation. Plus, my great uncle was living with us and he was a character collecting junk. And like, so I have the story of like the Jewish immigrants of like my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And and there's the humor in that, but it was chaos. And I'm going to most of the people around me are not that. And it just that first year, I mean, I wasn't invited to any bar mitzvahs. I'm like, oh, I'm clearly over it. I'm mentioning it. I was invited to even though there's a rule, you're supposed to invite everyone. Like, come on, it's the bar mitzvah. If that's any time to have the Judaic principles. But they were, I remember one kid even handed an invitation to someone next to me. So I remember telling myself, it's because I'm new. But she came after me. So it was me. I got invited to 2 bar mitzvahs, and then I didn't even want to go to the second one because I didn't have a nice enough outfit. So like just that first year, plus all the kids, plus I'm trying to learn, and I'm a second mother, like basically. And my older sister like fucked off, which is fine. Like she was not having any of it, and always was just a little less, I say maternal. But that's just who she was, more aloof. And if you asked me, I'm like, I want to be with my siblings and help them with their homework and do all of, but yeah, that was part of my childhood. I'm going to take the babies for a walk. Like I remember holding the stroller like this. So how big was I? And struggling and taking them to the candy store with the double stroller. So, and of course that just created its own trauma, the Montreal portion, because the first 4 of us that lived the Hasidic background, it makes a split because the rest of the family are growing up normal Montreal,
right?
With everything, and now there's more, in my opinion, more money, even though we were still broke and on social assistance and all of that. But my grandfather's there. It's suddenly, oh my God, they're getting an allowance. We never had that. Like we're talking about $5, but still, we might go to Zellers and get new clothes. It was a big deal versus the thrift store. So, so again, that's also another way. Most North American Jews, again, it's a stereotype, but a lot of them have done well. And I'm feeling I'm from, I'm like, I'm a poor Jew. Like what's that? So, but there were others and we don't see them enough because Hollywood and the same thing with TV shows, they perpetuate their own stereotypes. So, and I often rail against that. They're just quite a bit below the poverty line, but we don't see them because the Jewish community is very good about philanthropy. Everything that I went to, summer camps, everything's paid for. I mean, it might make you feel a bit like shit for it. My mother said, you really have to go there, but they do help, and the education is very important. So I I was able to high school on have a very good education, and I did catch up and learn 3 languages. And I later on went to McGill, and I have other languages, but I don't even know how I did it in that house.
I know.
Like it never slept. I once called to hook up internet. He's like, call him from a dorm? Like, no, it's my house.
This is where I live. This is my home. Oh my God.
I'm like, oh God. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, I just
call from a bus station.
You go from, like that's what it must have sounded public. Or like, all these people. And I'm like, shut up. My mother's yelling, someone get the fucking phone. Like, sorry, are we allowed to swear? Oh God, I hope my mother's not listening. Why do you have to share that? She was like, I wish you would remember less. I have a very sharp memory, unfortunately. I would love to forget more, but you don't get that choice. But anyway, I don't know, somewhere in there was an answer.
Yes, I really encourage you to write a book, Goldie. You absolutely 100% must write a book. I'm so glad you have a sharp memory.
There's too much.
I know, but you have to, this is fascinating. And we need these stories out there. This is amazing. And you're talking about, like, if you just take like one piece of parts of your story, it's a book all on its own. Do you know what I mean? Like you just talking now about growing up with this, mediocre education when you were part of the community, and then having all of these language barriers because you don't even know the difference between English and Yiddish, and now you have to learn French on top of that, and you have to start going to school, navigating all of that, all of the emotional things, the friendships, the living in a society that
At high
doesn't like you
school
because
age,
you're
oh,
Jewish and because
worse.
you're an Anglophone. Yes, and the hormones at that age, everything. And somehow you manage to make it to McGill University. Like this is pretty fascinating. That is just like one little tiny minuscule part of it. Could be in a book on like entirely on its
But then I
own.
had the pressure for
So
that to go to McGill and get
yeah.
back on the path, so to speak. My mother had dropped the ball, so to speak. My
Mm.
grandfather had started to do well. As we said, we thought he was rich, but he's just normal. And my mother joined the cult, has 10 kids. So now, and oh, Goldie, my grandfather would do, they do this a lot in Jewish, the labels. She's the brain of the family. So
Mm.
naturally, I felt ugly because he would even say,
Mm.
and this is our beauty, point to another sister. Um,
Ah. And
and
then she would feel
so,
dumb. So it's like
but at
none
first
of
I
this is
took that
helpful.
on, right? And they don't
Hmm.
even, it's almost, I make jokes of it, but I know that's a deflection. A lot of Jewish comedy is just survival. But
Hmm.
that was the thing. I wanted to do that and acting and comedy, but there was no way I would be allowed because now the pressure was to save, not to save the family
Right.
honor almost, but like doctor, lawyer, now I'm in that Jewish milieu, like
Got it.
accountant, and she has the
Hmm.
brains. And so after McGill, and we'll get into McGill, then I did want medicine, and they were devastated when at high school, after high school, I started not doing the sciences. Um, and like really, they called me into the principal's office. I was just dropping enriched science. It's such a Jewish school for you. They had us wear lab coats in the thing to get you used to that idea. And the arts, at least in the school, were denigrated. And like, you want fries with that. And the
Mm.
worst part for me is, and I've had this debate with like wealthier friends when they're trying to switch majors or do something, let's say at McGill or Concordia or whatever. They're like, my parents' money. So, oh, you don't have the pressure. I said, no, I have more of the pressure because not just the loans and stuff, but you're throwing in your life away. So then I was going to go into diplomacy and that's why I took Middle Eastern studies and history. I was going to go into like international law. Now they're happy, but I didn't. I become disillusioned, and I want to go to entertainment, which is what brings me to run away to Vancouver. But I disappointed. Like my grandfather died very disappointed in me. I would get these calls and I'd be like, Zadie, I can't. He's like, let me tell you the life of an art. Like she's going through a mid
Mhm.
like, quarter life. We need to help her. She's
Mhm.
throwing away, you're throwing away McGill, I would be told. And I
Mhm.
had this pressure. And for what? To pursue entertainment, which as we know is not stable. I guess I just committed. Maybe I miss, I'm like committing to being an unstable. At least I know how to be poor, so but it could go two ways. Like I have the siblings really like if you're poor, you romanticize wealth, money, money, money. And you can go the other way. You can get really hardened and like, oh, I struggle. And you go, I like to think, but it's, I can't be objective of myself, the softer way that it doesn't matter. It doesn't, as my father says, you can't take it with you. Although I say back to him, you didn't have it to begin with to take. So it's easy for you to say, you know. But anyway, and I'm more of that way. And but I don't know, joke's on me because every scene I've been in, same with Middle East studies or entertainment, you come across this wall where you got to toe the line. This is the
Okay,
culture.
this was I really should be opening it up to questions and comments, but I do want to hear this last bit before we do that, which is
Okay, I'll
exactly
try to be
that.
concise.
Yeah.
Let's see, Goldie concise. Okay, so you come up with what that you need to toe the line. That this is what it is. So Middle Eastern studies, the wokedom of today is starting. There's one, correct thing. Anything a negative about the Middle East or Islam or pro-Israel is Orientalist. Edward Said. We read all the greats. It's completely stamped on this. Now can you argue? Sure. Go and write your term paper. You're going to get back,
Hmm.
and I got it once, and you learn quickly. Read.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, pretext so that you what I call punitive harsher grading. So you learn quickly, just toe the line, get out. I literally wrote myself notes because it's so Goldie. Like I'm thinking posterity, someone's going to read my essays. Dear future Goldie, I do not believe this. I had to write that Syria was
Oh.
was serious about peace. Can you believe this, Assad? And I was like, I can't
Yeah.
write this, but I did. I had to write like how they're both blah blah blah, and I would
Hmm.
subversively insert just even taking the
Hmm.
middle ground was like subversive there. So I get it.
Hmm.
I'm like, you got to get in and get out. By the way, you don't want to know how they were teaching Islam
No, I don't.
there.
I don't. I can't.
Oh, so
I don't want to be
you,
triggered
you,
right
you
now. This is such a great
okay.
conversation. You're making me laugh and feel
Wonderful.
light,
And
but let's not
so
bring it
I
down.
know you have to laugh at the serious as well. I think you laugh and
Yeah.
cry at the same time, maybe. But
Yeah.
then I'm an entertainer. I become disillusioned. There's never going to be peace. I hope to be proven wrong in my lifetime, but I very disillusioned, having studied it. People go, did you read
Hmm.
the Quran? Yes, that's why.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and
In
I've,
Arabic. Hmm.
and I've dated, even semi secular Muslim and whatever. That's a whole other side. You got to
Hmm.
rebel at some point. So,
Hmm.
but I go to entertainment I'm going to pursue what I love. Fuck this. You have one life. And now I'm in this thing, and it was even before October 7th, and you have to toe the line on wokedom. First of all, actors shouldn't have, and comedians should not have viewpoints, but if they do, you better fucking toe that line. Am I able to swear? I'm sorry, it's too late already.
Yes,
Um,
you can fucking swear all you want.
so, um, excuse my French. My, my grandfather used to say that, but anyway, so like you have to toe that line on right currently today. My two wrong thinks, to use the Orwellian term, is I don't toe the line on gender. I see it. I see the sexism in the cults, and that's a whole other debate. And and of course the Middle East and Israel and the growing anti-Semitism. And to be a good Jew now, and in Hollywood, and this is what a smarter person who's like, don't blow up your career, just shut up. But not just shut up. You have to get on that stage and say, we call them
Yeah.
the as a Jews. As a Jew, I would like to say that Israel is an
Hmm.
apartheid, genocidal,
Hmm.
and I won't do that because it's wrong. Because it's not
Hmm.
true. I trust me, I would love to be an anti-Zionist Jew. You would welcome me or toe the
Hmm.
line on the gender thing. My problem is that every time I come across things, I take things, I always say I'm issue based. There's no right and left. Fuck the political spectrum. People are
Hmm.
identifying too much as a lefty or a right winger, and it locks them
Yeah.
into groupthink. Take
Hmm.
each issue. It doesn't, and then plot them. If you told me, oh, but most of your things plot on the left, I don't care. I'm not listening to that because that's arbitrary and it shifts over time. But I have these two major things, and Hollywood does not like that. Not only, and then I just felt I couldn't shut up about it. It's like then you have the option to just don't say anything. But I can't. It's once again, then I feel like I'm back in a religious movement with blasphemy laws,
Hmm.
and I can't do it. I can't go back
Yep.
to being that girl. And
Yep.
so
I feel you.
so
Yep.
I have no choice. I mean, this was foolish for me. Like I'm not able to really do comedy and acting. And I know people close to me, and even my family's upset. Like because I speak the truth. And people don't
Hmm.
want that. I know it sounds, oh, you can't
No,
handle the
it's
truth, but they
correct though.
don't. They want
Hmm.
this narrative, and I've tried to make it fit if it did, but it didn't. Like, trust me, I
Yeah.
wanted it to fit. But I'm like,
Yeah.
but you're wrong about science. But you're wrong about this. I studied it, both their sources and the other sort, and it
Hmm.
would have made my life easier. It's the same with all of this ideology.
Yep.
Like, I hate that I have the wrong things, and I can't help,
Hmm.
you know. So
But that's
I
what I
hope
love about
that's
you. That's what we all love about you. That's exactly that. It's so hard to remain true and to have integrity when there's like a tsunami. Everybody loves their groupthink these days. You're saying when people go into left wing or right wing, they're blocking themselves in. They want to be blocked in. They don't want to think, really. They the comfort of being told what to think is what I think is, attracting them to these tribes. And people like us who have already been part of a tribe and clawed our way out, blood, sweat, and tears, we're not going back. Like you're not putting me in another box after that.
well,
Even
I
if
was kicked out of an anti-racist group in McGill because they started talking about Zionism, and I'm big on debate. I will debate
Mm-hmm.
any topic. Big free speech advocate, almost to an extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say I
Mm-hmm.
would debate a Nazi. I know not everyone could, but because I
Mm-hmm.
believe in the
It would just be a
philosophers,
waste of your time, but
well,
yeah,
no, but you have to air the ideas to show the error and folly of their
I
ways.
completely agree.
So,
Yeah,
because
rather than
otherwise
letting
they're
it
going to
fester
they're going to believe
underground.
that and pass it on.
Totally.
So
Totally
I'm
agree
willing
with
to
that.
debate
Yeah.
you on my wrong things, but they don't want to. No
Yeah.
platforming, no
No.
debate.
Yeah. 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 Because they don't, they know, they already know that they're going to end up being embarrassed. But as we wrap this conversation up, I just want to make sure that you had an opportunity to say everything that you wanted to say. So any parting words you want to share with us, maybe about Wolf or anything that you
Yeah,
want to
thank
tell us
you.
about.
I did want to say one thing I'm proud of. I'm sort of part of, I don't join group, but I do join, is Wolf Women's Liberation Front. And we had a wonderful time doing RadFem summer camp where we had Yasmine speak and we address, we are I'm proud to say thanks to Lierre Keith, who was the founder, and this was very important to her. We are on record have a feminist group that spoke up against Hamas and spoke up for the Jewish women and the sexual abuse and rapes that happened on October 7th, unequivocally condemned it. And
And
when
the
the next time when they
denial.
say, where are the feminists and speak up for girls suffering under the Iranian regime, and both Muslim and ex-Muslim girls' rights, they will go there, and they did, and we did it on record. I think we're the only ones as a group, as an official organization, feminist group, to say, no, we stand with this, we condemn this, and we stand with the Jewish women and girls. And because there was all this denialism, and we spoke up against this. So it's on record. And we had a wonderful time. It was one of the best talks. And thank you so much for joining you. Sarah and Yasmine came, and we were in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere, and it was amazing.
Yeah. And all thanks to
Thank
you
you
for
all.
organizing it. So thank you so much. And obviously, thank you to Lier for inviting me and for everybody for incredibly warm welcome. Sarah and I had a great time
So
there.
I'm proud. Yeah, they will go to those places. I believe in no-go
Yeah.
zones, and they to call a spade a spade. If this is misogyny, no matter where it is, we will call it out and fight it. And I have to respect that. So
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you so much. Love these fierce female energy is like my favorite energy. I loved being there
it's just
amongst you women.
egalitarianism. What is feminism?
Yeah.
Egalitarianism. That's all I meant by that. We're not better.
Yeah.
You're not better. Equal value as humans.
I, it is, it for my, I much prefer to be in female energy than I do prefer to be in male energy. I've had enough male energy in my life. I'm a post-secondary educator, so it's not necessarily a male-dominated field, but it is male-dominated. I
Oh,
think maybe all fields are. But to be in a space where it's just all women, all supporting each other, all sometimes disagreeing with each other, but in a respectful manner it's just really good for the soul. So yeah, it's women are
it was
not
nice to
trying.
experience that. Yeah.
It was
I
very nice to
especially because I
experience
used to
that.
not like that. I was forced to be just around girls. And I was for a long
Yes,
time.
me
I love
too.
co-ed and I
Yep,
still like
100%.
that. But it's so nice to now join it by choice and to be
Yep.
able and to form that camaraderie. But I'm still
A
very much an
hundred percent.
advocate of we
I
need
I
to.
was totally like that too. You know how you just naturally like the women and the men, if you're just in a normal barbecue, like the guys are like convening around the barbecue and the women are like over here with the wine or the kids or whatever. I would always be standing with the men.
Me
And I'd always be
too, because
talking
that's where the
about
talking was
politics
going
or
to be. And I was like,
yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'm not gonna go
I'm
over
not
there
going
and
to be
talk about like
relegated to the women
diapers.
folk. Why don't you
Yes,
ladies address ladies matter while we
exactly.
discuss hard
Yeah,
politics?
yeah,
So, but
yeah.
now that you learn, you don't have, it's like, you
It's a choice.
overcorrect and then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
100%. Yep. Yep. So this is all new for me to like choose this gender apartheid. I don't mean that. I don't mean that, you guys. I'm just
No,
kidding.
don't make jokes. It's the internet. You know what she said? I have the
Do not
clip.
quote me. All right. Well, thank you so much, Goldie, for your time. And we really appreciate it. You've been such a joy, such a light, such a pleasure. And, I can't wait to continue this conversation on the community.
Well,
Take
thank you,
care.
everyone, both who joined or who's watching this later.
Yeah. Love you. Take care, everyone. Bye.
After hearing all that, you might be left wondering, what can I do? How can I help? Well, this is why I created a nonprofit called Free Hearts, Free Minds. We are the only organization dedicated exclusively to helping these free thinkers. We empower them with our programs and supportive community, lifting them up so they can heal, speak out, and begin to make positive changes, not just in their own lives, but within the broader community around them. If this is a cause that resonates with you and you want to make a difference, one way to do that is by donating to Free Hearts, Free Minds. Because not enough people care about this cause, we need people like you to help fuel this change. You can donate via our website, freeheartsfreeminds.com. Thank you. Every dollar you donate makes a difference.